Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time seeing my face on my YouTube channel, thank you so much for stopping by. To my returning subscribers, I love you all and I want to wish you guys a very big happy new year. In this video, I'll be showing you guys how to go about the cutting and stitching of this basket weave and Bubu dress. I styled this dress in two different ways, as you can see on the screen right here. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to do all of that in the video. If this is what you're interested in, please keep on watching, watch to the end. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. So let's get right started into the video. So right here are the materials I used for this project. I have this silk fabric which is 2 yards. You can use 3 yards if you want, or you're on the bigger side. So I have this crepe fabric which is about 1 yard that I'm going to be using for the basket weave. I have 2 yards of organza fabric, and then I have my marker, my scissors, my chalk, my ruler, and also my pattern paper. So let's get right started. Like I said earlier, my fabric was 2 yards. At this point, I was just remeasuring it to be sure of the amount of fabric I'm working with. So approximately it was 2 yards. So you can see how I'm measuring it right here. Then I'm going to take both ends from the width and I'll fold it into two like so, just like I'm doing right here. I'm going to arrange this really properly. Then I'm going to fold this fabric into four again like so, because I'm going to be cutting the front and the back piece together, just like I'm doing right here. After folding this, I already ruled out a straight line which will serve as my starting point. So from the middle area, I marked the width of my neckline, which is 3.5 inches wide, and then I came down by 3 inches for the depth of my front neckline, and then I'm also marked my 1.5 inches for the depth of my back neckline, and I just went ahead to make a curve around my back neckline and also at the front neckline, just like I'm doing right here. Then I divided my shoulder measurement into two, and then from the center I marked it across to the other side like so, just like I'm doing right here. So I added of about 2.5 inches or 3 inches, because if you look at the style inspiration, the basket weave didn't stop exactly at the shoulder line, so I extended it to be 2.5. I ended up using 3 inches, so I just marked it right there, just like I'm doing here. Then from the starting line, I'm going to come down by 7 inches, which is going to be the depth of my basket weave yoke. So I just marked it across like so, and then I'm going to use my straight rule to connect my lines across like so. So from the width of that basket weave yoke, I had to come down by 7 inches again just to extend the lines across. So I'm just going to use my ruler and connect from where I marked that extra 2.5 or 3 inches to the depth like so. Just connected it, so we have our basket weave yoke formed right now. Then at the end of that box, I'm just going to make a curve here, just to meet to the other line. So if you want to get this right, you can just go up by 1 inch upward like so, and then go inward by 1 inch and just connect it into a curve like so. So you can prefer to leave this in a square form, but this is the shape I wanted to achieve. So at this point, I just placed my tape around my starting line. I was just taking my vertical measurement, my shoulder to my bust point, my waist, and also my hip line. I'm doing this because I want to have these markings visible before I cut out that basket weave yoke. It will just give me a guide to be accurate, to know where my vertical measurements are. So that's just basically what I was doing right here. So from the starting line, I'm just going to come down by 17 inches. I'll just mark it right there. Then after marking the 17 inches, I'm going to make a curve from that 17 inches all the way to the center of the dress like so. So the length of this gown that I'm using, I want my gown to be 40 inches, but the length of this fabric is 35 inches. So the remaining 5 inches is going to come from the ruffle by the side. So you can just if you don't want this ruffle, you can just make your full dress length to be exactly the same thing. So this 35 is just so okay for me. It's time to cut this out, so I'm going to cut my basket yoke first. After cutting the basket yoke, I'm just going to set it aside and cut the down part. You can see as I've cut the down part. So this is what we have now. So let's set this aside and work on the basket yoke. So I folded my pattern paper into two like so, and then I placed my basket with yoke on top of my pattern paper. I'm going to be cutting the front and the back part separately. So I'll just place it on top and just cut this out on my pattern paper. After cutting out my yoke on top of my pattern paper, so I'm just going to set the yoke aside and fold one of my pattern paper into two like so, and then I'm just going to trim out the excess at the down part. I just want this to be equal, so I'm just going to repeat the same process for the other pattern paper. So at this point, I had to redraft my neckline. So from the center line, I went inward by 3.5 inches, and then I came down by 3 inches for the depth of my front neckline. So I just made a curve like so. So I marked the same 3.5 inches as the width from the center point for the back, and then I came down by 1.5 inches for the depth, and then I made a curve like so. Then I cut out my front and back neckline like so. Then I took out my pins from the front yoke. So from the center piece, I spaced this basket width by 2 inches. You can choose to space it by 1.5, but I just placed it, I spaced it out like so from the midpoint. So after that point, you place 2 inches and mark all the way. And I'll repeat the same process to the other side like so. And I'll draw straight lines across. So from the shoulder line, I spaced it by 2 inches downward, just like I'm doing right here. So I'm going to repeat the same process on the other line. Then I drew a straight line across like so. Then I'm going to repeat the same process to the other side. I'll just come down by 2 inches from my shoulder line. I'll mark it all the way down and I'll repeat it on the other same line like so. Then I'll use my straight rule to connect those lines like so. So at this point, I just outlined that center line like so because we're going to be stitching on it. So I'm done marking out my basket weave pattern. We're going to be stitching directly on those lines. So I'll set this aside and work on the back piece. So there's nothing new basically what I'm doing here for the back piece. It's just the same process for the front piece. Just from the center line, go out by 2 inches and connect the lines across like so. And then from the top of your shoulder, come down by 2 inches. Like I said, it depends on your spacing. So and then you connect the lines across just like I'm doing right here. Just connect it for the back. So we have our front and back pattern piece ready. So let's stitch on this right now. Before we go ahead to stitch, I used my black crepe fabric to cut out this strap, which is 1.5 or 1.6 inches wide, and I cut as long as it can go around these lines right here. So let's go to our stitching machine to stitch this. To stitch this basket weave, I'm just going to take out this piece that I cut out. I'll fold it half inch on both sides, and then I'll fold it on top of each other like so, and then I'm going to stitch it. So I place this strap folded like so on top of this line, and then I'm just going to align it properly just like I'm doing right here, and then I'm going to stitch on it. So guys, this is a very delicate process. You need to take your time to do it. Don't rush it. So fold half inch on both sides and then fold the half inch together like so and stitch it at the edge of the other side just like I'm doing right here. Just take your time to do this and you're going to get this right. So guys, after stitching this, if you can see, this other side is open, so I'm just going to top stitch at the edge of the other side like so. So I'm done stitching the first strap. I'm going to illustrate this again. Fold half inch on both sides like so, just like I'm doing right here, and then fold it together. So you're just going to place it on top of this line, and then you're going to stitch it down just like I'm doing right here. After stitching the other edge, I had to go ahead and stitch the other edge by the other side just to hold that strap down, just like I'm doing right here. After stitching the second strap, I'm just going to repeat the same process on top of those lines vertically as explained earlier. So as you can see, I've already stitched the other straps on top of the vertical lines. So I'm just going to take my strip, I'll just fold it into two like so, and then I'm just going to place it across those vertical lines and stitch it down. So guys, if you look closely, I made some adjustments with my pencil. So I discovered that this spacing I made was too wide, so I had to use my pencil to just remark 1.5 inches and reconnect the lines across. So you can see 1.5, you can see my faint pencil marked line. So if I had known, I would have just done everything 1.5, but it's still the same thing. After stitching this strap at the other edge, you can see how this other side is open. So you're going to top stitch on it, and then you're going to repeat the same process on the other lines. So you're going to also do the same thing on the back, but don't stitch a strap in the middle of that center line at the back, because I'm going to be slashing that open later on. So you can see I've stitched the strap across the other vertical straps like so. You can see how it looks like. So guys, I discovered that at the starting of my neckline, that place was going to just be bare, and I'm going to need a base that I can comfortably place my bias strip on it and sew it, so that when I tear the paper, it's not going to be looking weird around that area. So I'm just going to take my bias to just pipe the neckline. So guys, I also did the same thing for the back. I stitched my straps on the back the same way as the front. The only difference is at that center line I didn't stitch a strap there, because at the end of the day I'm going to still slash that open and then turn that area with a bias. So I'm just going to set this aside and work on the front. So I'm going to turn my pattern paper to the wrong side. I will just place my bias around that neckline, and then I'm going to stitch it down. So this is me stitching my bias to the neckline. So guys, you have to take your time to do this very carefully. Don't be fast, because if you're fast, your paper is just going to tear anyhow. You can see those areas that were torn. I had to sellotape those areas. After stitching my bias from the wrong side, I folded my bias to the front like so, and then I top stitched it to the other side. After top stitching the bias, this is what it looks like right now. So I'm going to set this front piece aside. So now remember, I didn't stitch a strap at that center line, so I'm just going to slash it open. So I used my bias strip to make a tiny loop that I'm going to use for the back. So I folded this into two of about 1.5 inches on fold, and I cut it out. So I'm just going to fold it into two like so. I'll place it on top of the strap that went across like so. Then I now used my bias strip to just place it on top of that loop, and then stitched it down all the way to the down part. So guys, just do this carefully. So guys, I later added a strap around that center line. This is just going to give me a base so that I can pipe my neckline and stitch my loop very properly on top of it. So just add another strap at the middle area. So I folded my loop into two. So from the neckline, I had to come down by 3/4 of an inch before placing that loop there. So because this was giving me issues, I had to just stitch that loop in one place. If this is giving you issues, just stitch that loop in one place. Then I took my bias strip and placed it on the right side like so. And then I stitched it all the way down. After stitching down the bias at the front, I had to now fold it inward at the back side like so, and then I top stitched it all the way down. After stitching the bias, this is what it looks like. You can see our loop is now formed. So I'm going to take this other back part, I'll place it like so. So at this other side, there's going to be a button around that area. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll just use my bias strip and pipe the neckline for the back on both sides. So don't forget to pipe the other edge of the back side. So I'm just going to do this off camera and show you the end result. After piping the other side of the back at the middle area, this is what it looks like. So neat. And then I also pipe the neckline for the back piece. So you're just going to add a button around this area. So let's take this to the main fabric and join it. It's time to stitch the yoke to the down part of the dress. So I just took one of the dress and then I opened it wide like so. Then I took my yoke and placed it around that cutout area. I'm just trying to arrange this in one place. So I flipped it to the wrong side and then I ended up pinning it by the sides like so. Then I flipped the yoke to the right side like so, and then I also pinned the other side just like I did for this other side. I'm just doing this just to keep this in place. After pinning it down, I flipped it right sides facing each other. I'm just going to take it to my stitching machine and stitch it by half of an inch all the way to the other side. I repeated the same process for the back. I just pinned it by the sides. Then I just started stitching from that middle point all the way to the other side. Just take it to your stitching machine and stitch it down by half of an inch. To stitch this yoke to this down part of the dress, I marked my center point around that down part of the dress. Then I took my pattern paper from that center area where I marked C. I aligned it together, I pinned it down just to secure it. Then I went ahead to stitch it all the way around. Stitching that curved area really gave me a tough time, but you have to be very careful with that area, if not your paper is going to tear anyhow. After stitching the other side, I'm just going to replicate the same process to the other side. Just place it right sides facing each other and stitch it down. After stitching the other side, this is what it looks like. You can see what it looks like from the inside. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to top stitch around these areas all the way to the other side. So the same process I use in joining the basket weave yoke for the front is the same way I'm going to use to join the back. Just place this at the center of that down part and stitch it all the way to the other side. So guys, this is the outcome of what I've stitched. I went ahead to top stitch around that front area like so. You can see how it looks like. So I also went ahead to also join the yoke for the back, just as you are seeing right here. I also top stitched around that area after joining the yoke for the back. So I noticed that there were excesses around the shoulder line, so I went ahead to trim it out. So this is me just folding this front part into two like so. Then I just went ahead to trim out the excess at the shoulder line. Guys, if you're cutting the full dress length of this kind of dress, you need to add enough allowance at the down part, so that even if you have excess at the shoulder line and you cut it off, it's not going to affect your measurements. It will rather fall back to your allowance. After cutting the excesses at the shoulder line, I just place my back part of the dress on top of my front part, right sides facing each other, and then I aligned the shoulder area. So I'm just going to take it to my stitching machine and stitch it down by half of an inch. I'm done joining the shoulder of this dress together. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to be taking my body measurement. So I'll advise you take your body measurement before taking your pattern paper off. It will make things easier for you. To get my vertical measurements, I placed my tape from my shoulder line, and then I marked my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches, shoulder to my waist, which is 15.5, and then I repeated the same process for the other side, shoulder to bust 10, and then shoulder to waist 15.5, and then I drew a straight line. Then from that waistline, I placed my tape, I marked down 9 inches, which is my hip line, on both sides. Then I used my straight rule to connect the lines across. At this point, I folded the front piece into two like so, from the shoulder line aligning together, and I arranged it properly. I'm just doing this just to get the midpoint of this front part. After getting the midpoint, I used my ruler to outline that line. After outlining the center line, I folded these two pieces into two back like so. I'm just arranging this so I can now take my horizontal measurements across. My bust measurement is 35 inches, so I'm just going to divide 35 into 4. 35 into 4 is 8.8 inches, so I'm just going to place it from that center line and mark it across to the other side. And then I'm also going to place that same 8.8 inches from the center line and mark it across to the other side, just like I'm doing right here. So my waist measurement is 29. 29 divided by 4 is 7.25. I'm just going to place it on the center and mark it on both sides like so. So my hip circumference is 36 inches, and then 36 into 4 is 9 inches. So I'm going to place that 9 on that center line and mark it on the other side and also this side as well. Then the next thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to be adding 1 inch on each of the measurements. That is for ease, so you can aid you wear your dress properly. After marking out my ease, I'll take my ruler and then connect from my bust to my waistline, and then I'll connect from my waistline to my hip line. I'll do the same thing for the other side. So to get the amount of ruffle you are going to cut, just place your tape from one end of your shoulder, measure whatsoever you have all the way to the other shoulder. Just measure it, and whatsoever you have, you're going to times that measurement into 2 and cut it out. To get the length of my ruffles, I just placed my tape from my shoulder line to know where this dress length stop, and it was 33.5. So I just roughly marked my dress length where at the down part down there. So I just placed my tape to see what I was left with, and at the end of the day I have 7 inches. So that is the length of the ruffles, but I'm going to be cutting mine on fold because I don't want to be hemming the base. So at this point, I was just taking off the paper from the yoke area. After taking out the paper, this is what I have right now. So right now, let me show you the organza that I cut and the measurement. So I cut this to be 13 inches wide, because on fold is going to be around 7 inches or 7.5 inches thereabout. So you can see you're just going to place it from one shoulder to the other, arrange it properly, and stitch it all the way to the other side. Mind you, the measurement from one shoulder to the other, I cut this organza times 2 of that measurement because I want to make ruffles or gathers to this. So you're just going to place it by the sides and stitch it all the way to the other side. So mind you, I cut out this organza two pieces, one for the front and one for the back. Whatsoever I get around your cuff times two for the front and the back. So that is how you're going to cut this. So to join the ruffles, I had to first rip off the joining at the shoulder like so I can be able to stitch the ruffle from the beginning there. So as you can see, I've already made gathers around my organza fabric. I made that gathers according to the measurement from one shoulder to the other. That means around the cuff. So I'm just going to place it on top and stitch it down. So I'm going to stitch it all the way to the other shoulder. I'll do the same thing for the back. After stitching my ruffles from one end to the other at the shoulder for both the front and the back, this is what I have right now. So at the shoulder area where I ripped those inseams open, you can see this area is open. So I'm just going to place it right sides facing each other, and then I'll stitch it down by half of an inch. I'll also place it right sides facing each other at the other side and stitch it down by half of an inch. So I cut out two ropes here that I'm going to be using to tie around my waist from the inside, that is to cinch my waist. And then I cut this 2 inches on fold. I went ahead to stitch it by the side by half of an inch, and the length of this rope is 38 inches long. 38 inches long. So guys, I wish I had cut this my rope 3 inches on fold to give me a better cinching effect. So I used my safety pin to poke it from the middle area, and I'm just trying to turn this inside out. So I'm going to repeat the same process and turn the other rope inside out. I'll iron it, stitch the shoulders and bring it back so we can do the next thing. So I went ahead to stitch the shoulders. You can see how close it is now. I also did the same thing for the other side as well. I closed the shoulder from the other side, and then I have ironed my rope. So I'm going to be teaching you how to attach these ropes. Then I flipped my dress inside. I just arranged it properly. So from the front, I now use my tape to measure to my waist area, which is 15.5. I marked it there, and then I confirmed it from the other side. So from the center line, I marked my waist measurement into 4 across like so. So from where I marked my measurement, I'll take my ropes and place it around that area. I'll just outline it very well. I'll place my rope there, and then I'll take it to my stitching machine and stitch it to hold it down like so. So if you're stitching this rope, make sure you stitch the rope only on the front part of the dress, not the front and the back part together. After stitching the rope to the waist area, this is what I have. So if you want the first method where the front is cinched and the back is free, you can now wear this on your body and tie it around your waist. But if you don't want that method, we're just going to flip it to the other side so you can stitch on your measurement, the markings you made at the front. So if you don't want the other method, just flip it to the other side, align it properly and stitch it on those lines. So this is the second method. So for the second method, after you stitched your measurements by the sides, there's a way you can still tie your rope from the inside, making the front more snatched than the back. So I'm just going to show you how I did this. So this is how I wore the dress from the neckline. It's open by the side. So I took the rope by the sides, you see, and then I'm going to tie it around my back. I'll tie it very tightly to give that waist cinching effect by the side. So the essence is the front is tight and the back is free. You can see how the back looks like. This is what I was talking about. So after tying the dress, you can notice that the sides are open. We are not going to leave it like that. You're just going to fold these ruffles to an extent like this, and then you're going to hand stitch by the sides. Just find a way you can hand stitch it so it can close and your sides won't be open. At this point, I was just pinning where I would hand stitch on both sides of the dress so I can show you what it looks like. So after pinning it down, you can see that the sides are closed. When you're done hand stitching, it is going to be closed. So we've come to the end of this tutorial. If at this point you've watched this video to this extent and you've not hit the like and subscribe button, please hit the like and subscribe button. Please don't watch without subscribing. I'll see you in my next tutorial. Bye.